the terrorism emanating from the Afghan territory is not only the premier national security threat to Pakistan, but it is also a growing threat to international peace and security, and not just to the South Asian region.
Measures are being taken for better border management with Afghanistan, but Afghan authorities seems to be non-responsive.
Unfortunately, Afghanistan has again become a major source of insecurity for the region and also for the international community. PTI and its founder have advocated appeasement policy with Taliban. And this grave strategic blunder allowed Afghan Taliban not only to shift the onus of eradicating terrorism back on Pakistan, and also allowed them to push TTP and Fitna al-Kharij back into Pakistani territory.
The new American administration by Republicans President-elect Mr. Donald Trump really take interest in resolving this Afghanistan situation, that US will engage Pakistan and Afghanistan and will play some sort of vital role in ensuring peace.
It is the US which allowed Afghan Taliban to open their office in Doha. And they are the one who exited Afghanistan, leaving Afghanistan at the mercy of the current Afghan Taliban government.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello and welcome to program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, very, very important, extraordinary developments are taking place in the region, particularly on Pakistan-Afghanistan border. And when we talk of Pakistan-Afghanistan border, there have been scores of terrorist attacks from across Afghanistan border into Pakistan. And the latest development is that there have been 2 attempts made by Fitna al-Khawarij, known as banned Taliban Pakistan, on Pakistan-Afghanistan border in last 24 hours. In first attempt, they tried to infiltrate into Pakistani territory, and that infiltration attempt was repulsed by brave Pakistani security forces. However, after a couple of hours, early this morning, they used Afghan security forces official post of the Afghan security forces were used for massive firing on Pakistani security forces and Pakistani area. That was also responded strongly, resulting in heavy casualties on Afghan side. Reportedly, there have been more than 15 casualties of the terrorists who were trying to infiltrate, and they were making intensive firing on Pakistan. This particular development that took place early in the morning, that has exposed the nexus between Afghan Taliban and Fitna al-Khawarij, Pakistan, Taliban Pakistan's militants, as I said again and again, Fitna al-Khawarij, that both were together, both were united. This is a new development. And this has confirmed Pakistan's apprehension that this Fitna al-Khawarij or TTP's safe havens in Afghanistan are officially patronized by Afghan Taliban regime. To discuss this, what could be the future security scenario, how Pakistan is dealing with this, and how Pakistan Army is responding to these all developments, and particularly the comprehensive press briefing made by Inter-Services Public Relations of Pakistan Army Chief Director General Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry also spoke in depth about these all developments. We will also take into account that, and Pakistan's top forum, Federal Cabinet meeting, which was chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif yesterday. First time Pakistani cabinet also comprehensively focused on this particular issue. and called upon Afghan authorities to ensure that Afghan territory is not used for terrorism against Pakistan. To discuss this all and all associated topics, subtopic issues, we are fortunate to have with us senior strategic and international affairs expert analyst, Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab. Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Saab, very warm welcome to Program Insight. And I would like to begin the conversation by drawing your attention on latest development. Two attempts have been made. In first attempt, infiltration, and when they failed, they used Afghan security forces post along with the Afghan soldiers and made a massive attack in shape of firing, mortar shelling, and these all. So what is this happening on our western border? As DGISPR yesterday also said that measures are being taken for better border management with Afghanistan. But Afghan authorities seems to be non-responsive and they continue to support this fitna al-Khawarij. Doctor.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mateen Saab, on this very important issue. I think the developments which took place early today and in the last week proves that the Pakistani concern that unfortunately Afghanistan has again become a major source of insecurity for the region and also for the international community. It also vindicates the recent UN report that not just regional but global terror organizations, including Daesh and Al-Qaeda, have penetrated deeply into the ranks of the Afghan Taliban ministries and sensitive departments, including intelligence department, including Ministry of Defense and Foreign Affairs. But to discuss the significance of Afghanistan for regional security, for international peace and security, I think we can discuss its three dimensions: the global dimension, the regional dimension, and the domestic dimension. And before we talk about whatever has happened on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, let me share with you that last night, United Nations Security Council also issued a very strongly worded statement on Afghanistan in particular, in which there was a strong unanimous demand from the UN Security Council that Afghan government must combat terrorism and live up to the commitments towards not just eliminating terrorism from its borders and territory, but also developing an inclusive political system, respecting the human rights of all communities and ladies as well, and their right to work and seek education as well. So this also vindicates that it's not just Pakistan or the region, but the entire international community has expressed its deep concern at the deteriorating human rights situation and the inability or the lack of willingness of Afghan government towards eradicating terrorism from the highest and most influential multilateral forum, which is United Nations Security Council. Secondly, at the bilateral level, since you were there at the press conference of the Pakistan's military spokesperson, Lieutenant General Sharif, he clearly articulated Pakistan's frustration towards the inability of Afghan government to live up to the international commitments and obligations, in which General Sharif clearly said that status quo is no more an option. Exactly. So that means that Pakistan was forced to carry out a very precise intelligence-based operation targeting the Fitna al-Kharij or TTP, which are being protected and considered as state guests of the current Afghan government inside Afghanistan. And it was so the intelligence was so accurate, and the strike was so precise that no collateral damage, despite allegations by the Afghan media and government, took place. So that is very important. And let me highlight a very important aspect of this airstrike, that this was not an airstrike against Afghan government, Afghan people, Afghan state, or it's not an aggression against Afghanistan, but it was only a consequence of the frustration of Pakistan at the inability of the Afghan government to live up to its international obligation of eradicating terrorist movements from its own territory. So it's their abject failure which forced Pakistan in its own national security compulsion, because thousands of Pakistanis, you know very well, have lost their lives as a direct consequence of the TTP attacks which have been launched from the Afghan territory against the Pakistani civilians and military officials inside Pakistan. So this must be understood clearly by the Afghan government that this is not an aggression. This is only a very careful, responsible, and long overdue intelligence-based operation targeting those TTP individuals who are directly and personally involved in planning, abetting, organizing, training, and facilitating terror attacks inside Pakistan. However, it was very unfortunate that early morning, some irresponsible act was carried out at the behest of the Afghan forces, and Fitna al-Kharij, facilitated by the Afghan forces, attempted to infiltrate into Pakistan territory from Paktia province into the neighboring Kuram agency of Pakistan. But thankfully, Pakistani law enforcement agencies and armed forces were very vigilant, and they rose to the challenge, and they foiled their attempt and inflicted heavy casualties on the intruding forces, and no loss of life occurred on the side of the Pakistani forces. But it is also very important to highlight that this has taken place only a few days after a very important visit by the newly appointed Pakistan Special Envoy for Afghanistan, Ambassador Sadiq, who has attempted to persuade the Afghan administration to meet its obligations so that both countries can expand and deepen the cooperation. And not just Pakistan, but Afghan government and Afghani people can also benefit from progress and prosperity based on the interconnectivity projects which are emerging in this region.
Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Sahab, yesterday Pakistani cabinet had in-depth discussion on this entire scenario that you're talking about, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and this regional security situation, along with Pakistan-Afghan border. And cabinet is the highest forum, decision-making forum in government of Pakistan, chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. So a comprehensive statement was issued after cabinet meeting, calling upon Afghan authorities to act with responsibility. So no, all channels are open. Diplomatically, you said that Ambassador Sadiq was sent to Kabul. Military spokesperson Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif also confirmed indirect and direct communication and talks are on with Afghan authorities. So at the political level, the cabinet is also taking up. So do you think Afghan authorities will respond and will respect to the goal made by Pakistan at every level at a time when Pakistan sincerely want to engage with Afghanistan? Pakistan wanted to take care of Afghanistan. And just a quick background, where in December 2021, Pakistan hosted exclusive OIC foreign ministers meeting so that Afghanistan could be taken care by the Muslim world. There could be more funds, there could be welfare. So, but unfortunately, Afghan Taliban are non-responsive. So do you think this time they will respond and they will fulfill their responsibilities in ensuring that their territory is not used for terrorism against Pakistan. This is what Pakistani cabinet said yesterday.
Mateen Sahab, I think right now the terrorism emanating from the Afghan territory is not only the premier national security threat to Pakistan, but it is also a growing threat to international peace and security, and not just to the South Asian region. And as I earlier pointed out, the UN report also vindicates Pakistan's concerns. And this is on not just a demand, expectation, or a Afghan obligation towards Pakistan only. It is a long overdue obligation as part of the Doha process. And you would recall in the last Doha meeting, which was attended by almost 15 countries, which was headed by the UN, all 15 countries urged the Afghan administration to meet its obligations towards eradication of terrorism from its territory, from shaping and evolving inclusive political government, and respecting the human rights of all the communities and ladies and children. But unfortunately, on all these three accounts, there is a lingering lack of will demonstrated by the Kabul administration to meet their own obligations towards not just the international community, but their own fellow citizens, which belong to other cultures, sects, ideologies, and their own ladies and children, on whose progress their own future heavily and directly depends. Secondly, I think the last night's statement by the UN Security Council on Afghanistan also proves that Afghanistan has unfortunately again become a source of international concern regarding terrorism and insecurity for the world and this region, and particularly Pakistan. So this also indicates that Afghanistan is not a Pakistan-specific concern. However, it is also true that the terrorist activities being carried out from the Afghan territory are heavily poised against Pakistan's national security interests, and seem to be conducted, planned, organized, trained right under the nose of the Kabul administration, and with active support from our eastern neighbor, India. So that is something which I think Pakistan cannot accept and tolerate. And it seems that the realization in Rawalpindi and Islamabad both has finally reached the conclusion that it is not a lack of capacity, but there is an abject lack of will on behalf of the Kabul administration to carry out any meaningful and tangible action to rein in the terrorist activities being carried out from its territory. Lastly, I think you mentioned about Pakistan's Prime Minister's statement after the cabinet meeting, which also expressed concern about the continued terrorism from Afghan territory. This also proves that both Pakistan's political leadership and Pakistan's military leadership are on the same page, and they both unanimously share the grave security concern that Pakistan faces from terrorism emanating from the Afghan territory. So I think the action, the limited, careful, lawful and responsible act of self-defense that Pakistan demonstrated to target only those misguided terrorist elements which are using Afghan territory to launch attacks against Pakistan must be understood by the Afghan government as a direct consequence of Afghan government's own failure to meet international obligations, and not an act of war, not an act of aggression against Afghan people, nation, or government, or state. However, if still Afghan government fails to meet international obligations, and particularly try to harm the goodwill which Pakistan has exceptionally shown towards the Afghan nation, more than any other nation in the last 5 decades, then I think that will be a huge tragedy. And I don't think Afghanistan should underestimate the resolve and the will of Pakistani leadership, Pakistani armed forces, and Pakistani nation to defend and protect every inch of our territory and every drop of the blood of our citizens. It is no longer possible and acceptable to anybody in Pakistan that the blood of Pakistani citizens and military officials continues to be shed by the terrorists who are operating right under the nose and enjoying the hospitality of Kabul administration. So this proves that what the ISPR said, that status quo is no longer acceptable for Pakistan.
Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Sahab, I would like to draw your attention on one of the sentence made by DG ISPR, General Ahmed Sharif, in which he said, without naming who was in 2021, who negotiated with these fighters, with these TTP militants, so that they could be resettled in Pakistan. And at that time, quote unquote, their backbone was broken. They were so weak to launch attacks. And it's quite obvious who was in power at that time. And one, I would like to seek your comments on this, that it was without taking into consideration all security concerns and things like that, that there were negotiations, they were brought back as a deal with them. And today we are facing that particular thing. And second, I would like to draw your attention on founder PTI chairman's statement, very, very unfortunate, and which we should strongly condemn. He opposed those intelligence-based precise operations against militants. Why these are the double standards on the part of that leader? He doesn't want to see peace in Pakistan. Your thoughts?
I think it's a very serious issue that you have raised, that while on one hand, there is a complete failure on part of Afghan government to meet and live up to the international obligations towards eradication of terrorism from their territory, I think it was also very irresponsible on the part of the leadership during 3 years ago, which was in power in Islamabad 3 years ago, and also and it's the same party which is ruling in the province which is the worst affected as a result of terrorism in Pakistan, which is the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The same party is enjoying power in that province, but there is a lingering failure of this party to fulfill the national security imperative and obligation of sustainably and decisively defeating terrorism from all parts of Pakistan. And it is ironic that for almost 2 decades, let me remind our viewers, it's not just based on the 4-year rule of PTI, but ideologically and culturally, it seems that no party in Pakistan shares so much sympathy and support and magnanimity to those organizations which have harmed our national security through terrorism in our entire history. I think for almost 2 decades, PTI and its founder have advocated appeasement policy with Taliban. And this grave strategic blunder allowed Afghan Taliban not only to shift the onus of eradicating terrorism back on Pakistan, and also allowed them to push TTP and Fitna al-Kharij back into Pakistani territory, which used this ill conceived goodwill and magnanimity and hospitality of PTI to retrench themselves, to regroup, and to reinforce themselves and strengthen themselves and rearm themselves in Pakistani territory, which has caused serious challenges to eradicating terrorism in a sustainable and decisive manner. And lastly, and that is the most unfortunate tragedy, that every day you are aware Pakistani armed forces, law enforcement agencies, and intelligence organizations are carrying out almost 169 intelligence-based operations every day and sacrificing dozens of our young officers and soldiers and civilians every day as a direct consequence of this ill-conceived strategic blunder of appeasement of Taliban, which has emboldened them and allowed them to rearm, regroup, and re-equip themselves. So I think in a reaction, PTI founder mentioned that General Faz did this on behalf of General Bajwa, but this cannot be remotely the reality, for the simple reason that even if General Faz claims to be allegedly carrying out the orders of General Bajwa, then why is TTP still advocating appeasement and brokering peace with TTP today? Is TTP still under the influence of General Faz and General Bajwa?
Dr. Saab, exactly. You have thoroughly highlighted the entire issue. I would like to seek your very quick and strategic comments on the situation in Kurram district, formerly known as Kurram Agency, which has been in trouble since last many years. It is this Kurram district, formerly known as former tribal agency, Kurram Agency, which has borders with Afghanistan. So please tell our international foreign viewers that what exactly is happening. Is this situation in Kurram district has some connection with these banned TTP militants who are operating from Afghanistan? Are their fighters and their terrorists are inside this particular territory? Any linkage in the disturbance of Kurram district with the Fitna al-Khawarij who are based on the other side of Afghanistan, keeping in view that this district is immediate neighbor of Afghanistan's Kunar province, Paktia province.
I think it's another very important issue which has three dimensions. First, that it's a lingering and festive part of Pakistan, which is badly in need of better governance. Secondly, the ethnographic structure is such that there are different tribes which follow different sects and ideological frameworks. But that is not the main cause of conflict and unrest in Kurram district. The real cause are land disputes, which are at times, unfortunately, articulated in an ideological fashion. But the most unfortunate and tragic aspect, which is often ignored, is that the unrest and the violence that sometimes is unfortunately witnessed in Kurram district is not an organic and completely indigenous phenomena. It is supported, abetted, facilitated, fueled externally for ulterior motive by hostile foreign forces, which includes Afghanistan. That it is not a coincidence that just when the situation is tense in Kurram district, numerous attempts have been made by terrorist organizations operating out of Afghanistan to support and fuel and carry out terror attacks and fuel violence inside Kuram district as well. So that is an aspect which is aimed at further instigating the certain communities that not only there is insecurity internally, but they are also facing external aggression. So that is very important for our Pakistanis to understand that even if there are disputes over land or any other aspect in any part of Pakistan, they need to be lawfully, peacefully, and diplomatically and maturely and responsibly negotiated and addressed. They should not be framed in an ideological manner which advances our enemy's agenda of deepening the sectarian fault lines and also exploiting Pakistan's internal security through external support, instigation, and support for violence as well. So that aspect is, again, another aspect which deserves due consideration and reflection, that in all forms of terrorism, I essentially three types of terrorism is emanating from Afghanistan: sectarian violence, terror attacks against armed forces and civilians based on distortion of the great Islamic ideology by Fitna al-Kharij, and support and facilitation for Baloch ethnic or insurgents, including BLA and BLF. All three are being fueled, trained, supported, and facilitated through Afghan territory. So it is very important for Pakistan not only to continue the bilateral and multilateral diplomatic efforts, and I think this Pakistani concern, as I earlier pointed out, has been echoed and reinforced by United Nations Security Council. And finally, I would say that Pakistan has decided that if Afghan government fails to meet its obligation of eradicating terrorism from its own territory, then Pakistan will have to choose its own course of action based on its own national responsibility to protect the life, liberty, the honor, and the property of all citizens of Pakistan.
That's very true that Pakistan will make no compromise. This was what stated by DG ISPR yesterday, and he also made it clear that this war against terror should not be politicized. KP province, while referring to that province, they said they should focus on improvement of governance, administration, justice, and these all things in some of the areas. I would like to seek your comments, since you keep very close eye on American foreign policy. America remained in Afghanistan for approximately 18 years, and there will be a change of administration in Washington in January 2025. Finally, tell our international viewers, particularly Americans, that the new American administration by Republicans President-elect Mr. Donald Trump really take interest in resolving this Afghanistan situation, keeping in view that the United States still have their special representative for Afghanistan. So do you think that United States, you expect so that US will engage Pakistan and Afghanistan and will play some sort of vital role in ensuring peace, keeping in view that Doha Accord was signed between Americans and Afghan Taliban? Dr.
Mateen Saab, the recent statement by United Nations Security Council expressing deep concern at the rise of terrorism in Afghanistan and the clear and unambiguous demand from the Afghan administration to eradicate terrorism from its own borders proves that the US has endorsed this global international security concern towards Afghanistan. Because United States, not just in its unilateral framework, but also as part of as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, also supported this statement. Number two, the rise of terrorism from Afghanistan is not just an issue for Pakistan or for South Asian region. The rapid influence and emergence of Daesh and Al Qaeda and their deep influence and penetration in the Afghan government ranks is a cause of concern for the US, because US is the party which directly dealt with and negotiated the Doha Accord with the Taliban administration. It is the US which allowed Afghan Taliban to open their office in Doha. And they have been bilaterally engaged in talks for almost a decade now. And they are the one who exited Afghanistan, leaving Afghanistan at the mercy of the current Afghan Taliban government. So I think they also have a responsibility, not just towards the region, not just towards the international peace and security and community, but also towards their own citizens who were once a victim of direct attack on the US soil, the first such attack after Pearl Harbor, which was carried out by Al Qaeda using the support and goodwill and hospitality of Afghan Taliban. So if again such outfits are being harbored, supported, welcomed, and given hospitality by Afghan government, then I don't know when the next time any such outfit carry out an attack against the US interests, either regionally or globally. So that is a grave national security concern that no US administration, including the incoming Trump administration, can overlook or ignore in its own national security interests. Therefore, I expect that in the days and years to come, a US interest in collaborating with Pakistan, in understanding Pakistan's point of view, and pressurizing Afghan Taliban to meet its obligation towards eradicating terrorism will grow. And I expect that that is an obligation for the US administration towards their own national security, towards their own national interest, to ensure that Afghanistan again does not become a source of threat, a real threat against the US citizens, US interests, and US mainland, like it became 23 years ago.
That's indeed very true that United States, of course, is not supposed to abandon Afghanistan. We are almost near the closing of program. Just one sentence. What is the way forward and how you see this situation in 2025?
Insofar as Afghanistan is concerned, as we've earlier discussed, it is unfortunate that diplomacy has not yielded the desired results in convincing the Afghan government to meet its international obligations. Therefore, I think I expect diplomacy in a more coercive fashion, not just at the bilateral level, but at the multilateral level through at least 3 to 4 different forums. Number one is UN Security Council. Number 2 is UN General Assembly. Number 3 is UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. And number 4 is OIC. And number 5 is basically SCO. So I expect and I urge Pakistan to take up this grave and growing regional and international security concern emanating from Afghanistan at all these 5 forums, and but not neglect its own obligation towards protecting the lives, the honor, and the properties of all its citizens and every inch of its territory on its own. Because unfortunately, it seems that the Afghan government lacks both the capacity, but more importantly, the political will to meet its international obligations and also towards the protection of rights, honor, and progress of its own citizens.
Thank you so much, Dr. Syed Muhammad Ali Sahab, for this in-depth discussion and analysis of the security challenge that Pakistan is facing from across the border and how Pakistan will be responding in 2025. What will be the policy of Pakistan, diplomatic engagement, military actions, and most importantly, in 2025, how United States would be dealing with Afghanistan. Thank you once again, despite your busy schedule. You participated in our program. And dear viewers, till our next program, goodbye and Allah Hafiz from studios.